Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name is Jake, and today we are discussing uh, what you can do about illegal war. Believe it or not, we still have uh, some power remaining in our country. Now, what is that in the corner? Ah, yeah, we do have some power in the United States that we can flex. It has, in fact, been one of the many news stories that would be the major news story, the only thing people were talking about in any other administration. It's the power of the purse. We have the ability to shut down the government coming up, and we have an obligation to. One of the things that truly disappointed me about Russia, not the government, but the people, was the fact that the people sat by like little bitches while their military invaded an innocent country. Are we little bitches like Russia? I don't think so. I think we're better than that. At the very least, I think we can be better than that. But first, let's say hi to the gang. Natchikit, good to see you. Pinkerbell, always a pleasure. Hello. Elaine Sharp. Natchikit, it's sometimes a pleasure. Elaine, delighted to see you. No, it's wonderful to see all y'all. But let's talk about the people's power. We have a government right now which just straight up lies. They lie constantly. They uh, violate the Hatch Act every single day. The Hatch Act being the thing that says you can't turn government services into a campaign for you. You can't use the power given to you by the people to ensure your power grows. In other words, to take more than you were given as a representative of the people. We are better than this. We must hold the current administration legally accountable. This goes beyond just Trump. Sorry, I was making bread. This goes beyond just Trump. Elaine, why am I not seeing anybody else? You might have top comments selected. I don't know why YouTube exists the way it does, but try selecting all comments in the chat, and you might see other folks. Oh, never mind. It's because you're watching vertically. That's why. I can see this now. Yeah, this stream is going up both vertically and horizontally because I want to talk to Republicans. Y'all know the premise, but I'm going to repeat it because they might be seeing this for the first time. Republicans, you and I have both been lied to. You are going through right now what everybody else in my audience experienced 10 years ago, a little more, actually more like 12 years ago. We've been angry with you, and whether or not that was justified, it was pointless because you are the victims of the same scam that we were victims of. What am I talking about? I'm talking about how Trump is your Obama. They're the same fucking scam wearing different masks. He talks. He talks like he believes in all the things you believe in, but he doesn't give a fuck about you. He calls you dumb. He makes fun of you. He throws a Great Gatsby party in Mar-a-Lago that you are not allowed to attend, and he does this while the news is coming out that your economy is in shambles. He says he's going to be the no new wars president and then invades Venezuela. He says he's going to be a businessman, that's the advantage. It's not going to cost you anything for him to be in office. And yet, as a lot of you discovered on the 30th of this month, he's still scamming you for money. There was an email that went out with that had a box that if you didn't uncheck would automatically withdraw thousands of dollars from your bank account. Why does he need any money at all? By the way, that money goes to his reelection campaign. He said he was going to follow the law. This dude is lying to you, in other words, time and time again. This dude is lying to you. And we can only be so frustrated with each other. If Trump was doing the things he was promising you, that would be one thing. And we would probably still disagree about what ought to be done. But at least we would be in a world where the president is doing the things they say they're going to do so you can make decisions based off of that. But that's not what's happening. He's behaving exactly like Obama did. He says what you want to hear, and what you guys want to hear disturbs me. But nonetheless, he says what you want to hear and then does what he wants. As soon as he doesn't need you, he does whatever the fuck he wants, and what he wants is never in your interest. It's always in the interest of billionaires. Both Trump and Obama did nothing but funnel your tax dollars to the military-industrial complex specifically, but billionaires generally. That's what both of them did. This won't change. Your living situation, the amount you are able to prosper, will not change other than to continue getting worse until you and us learn to stop loving our politicians. Learn to start holding them accountable. Learn to start punishing them. You have to start punishing your politicians. You have to acknowledge at some point that Trump is all over the Epstein files, that he started a war over nothing, that he is calling drugs weapons of mass destruction in the most transparent nod to the war in Iraq, the one that he was elected partially on disagreeing with. The time is here. And the good news is a whole lot of your enemies are going to go away overnight when you stop believing the lies he says, because he's lying about who's attacking you. It's not us. It's him. He wasn't lying about Obama attacking you. He wasn't lying about Biden attacking you. He was lying about the ways in which they were. But the reason he did that is because he's attacking you in the same way. In short, he takes your tax dollars and gives it to people who already have billions. That's it. That's the main scam. There's secondary scams, like he takes your sons and daughters and gets them killed so that billionaires can bleed a country of their natural resources. He does that too. He's saying your sons and daughters have to die because it's going to make your gas cheaper. It's not, by the way. Hi, Scarlett. Hi, Alex. Alex says I was tickling my little brother's feet, but my mom said to wait until he's born, and now I'm sad. Ooh. 12:14 p.m. Eastern Time. And that just woke me up. Yeah, the idea here, gang, is that we've got a criminal president. We have a rogue nation. The U.S.'s soft power is hemorrhaging. Let's start by talking about what you can learn from the days you're living in right now. Keep an eye out for who supports the United States in this moment and how they support us. You can learn basically everybody who comes out supporting the United States is putting themselves on a list you should be keeping track of. And these are people who are never to be trusted again. That includes the leader of Peru, who said they support the U.S.'s invasion of a peaceful country, the illegal invasion of a peaceful country. This also includes England, who apparently worked with the United States. The Royal Air Force worked with the United States to track a Venezuelan oil tanker. They assisted us in a crime. We cannot trust the words coming out of the mouths of the English or the actions that they do. We cannot trust that they are doing things for the reasons they say. We cannot trust anything about them. Why? Because they are accomplices in a crime. Even if they were just relaying information, they are accomplices in a crime. Those are people who can never be trusted again. Current leadership in England, president of Peru, anybody else that has come out in favor of Venezuela's invasion. Machado, the opposition leader, who encouraged Trump to invade her country, obviously can never be trusted again. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee can obviously never be trusted again because they gave Machado a peace prize, and we trust them to know about the world, to know how things work, and they didn't. They either didn't know or didn't care. Either way, their opinion when it comes to who deserves a prize for being peaceful is irrelevant now. This should make your life easier. It makes your life easier when you know, okay, anything until I hear that there's a new leader of Peru, anything they have to say, that government has to say, can be fully ignored. Until I see that there is utter leadership change in England, I know nothing they say is to be taken seriously because they're not serious people. Similarly, you know never to follow the leadership of any country that is not actively impeding the United States right now. If economic sanctions are not leveled by a country against the United States, that country is not a world leader. That country is a sheep. They are a follower. They are, to keep with the barnyard animal analogies, they've been cowed. They're not worthy of following their example. If you are a member of any country in the world other than the United States, you have an obligation. You have an obligation at the minimum to voice your opinion to your government, to let them know we are to be in opposition to the United States now. The United States is threatening to invade countries. They already have commenced an illegal invasion. They've committed murder. 4 days ago, They murdered about 100 people. It's going to get worse. But at the end of this, people are going to turn around and come to these same conclusions that I'm telling you now. And if you start paying attention in this way now, keeping track of who is worthy of following, who is which countries have the sanity and the soberness to assess this situation and behave in a moral way. If you start doing that now, you will, number one, get credit amongst your community for being one of the savviest people there, any community that you're a part of. Thing number two, it will be much easier for you to understand everything that happens for the next 20 years or so. You are now seeing, I will repeat, in reaction to the United States, you are seeing a list of people who are unworthy of trust ever again and countries who are either worthy or not of leading the world. When I say leading the world, I mean we consider their example as one to follow. France, for example, at least their not if not their government, their workers. That's an example for Americans to follow. Absolutely. When we want to take our power back, we withhold our labor as necessary. By the way, if ICE is in your town, general strike throughout the town. As we learned during the pandemic, America has a vulnerability, and we must exploit that. We are addicted to money. We cannot function without luxury, not just survival, but luxury. When the rich suffer, our problems go away. When the rich are pampered, our problems increase because our problems are brought to us by the oligarchs of America. Frankly, it's the oligarchs of the world. Here's the reality I want you all to take into your hearts. There actually is a elite group of ultra rich throughout the world who are causing all of our problems. They're killing our sons and daughters. They're poisoning our land. They're spreading disease and filth. There is a group of people, a minority of people in the world who are the cause of all of our problems. And we should band together and destroy them. It's very easy to see who these people are. They are the ultra rich. If they have more than $1 billion, they are your enemy. They have taken steps to make your life tangibly worse. No matter who you are, no matter what corner of planet Earth you are listening to this from, you are someone who has suffered because of oligarchs. What do we do about this? January 30th, there is a vote coming up. We can either fund the government or not. Here's something, whether you are a Republican or Democrat, you should encourage your representative to do. Do not fund the government. Not until we've had a vote. Not until you, whether you agree with the war in Venezuela or not, the illegal war, by the way, whether or not you agree that we should be there, you should acknowledge that you are the one who gets to decide. It's not the president. We do not elect kings in this country. You decide. How is it your voice gets to decide whether or not we go to war? Well, you have representatives. Congress votes. Your representatives vote to decide if that massive war machine that we have gets turned on and pointed at somebody. Even if you think that invading a peaceful country like Venezuela was a good idea, don't just give up your right to decide whether or not we go to war because you agree with the war that we got forced into. Think of it like this. If you enjoy hamburgers, are you by default then okay with somebody shoving a hamburger in your mouth? No. That might not have been how you intended to eat the burger. And certainly it's disrespectful. Now you're setting the precedent that somebody can shove things in your mouth and you're not going to do anything about it. Don't be that little bitch. Contact your representative. Right, John? Contact your representative and tell them we do not approve a budget until after Congress has voted on whether or not we will go to war with Venezuela. This is not the president's right to decide for us. You need to make that very clear. Speaking of, let me pull this up here. So, while Trump is all over the Epstein files, while we are at going to war illegally, I also want to point out. I liked it. Well, that's not bad. Let's do a traditional though. I also want to point out that other crimes are happening near constantly. Trump very correctly pointed out recently that if we get a Democratic majority in the House, he's getting impeached. Yes, he is, and rightly so. This alone is a reason why. This is on whitehouse.gov. That's .gov, as in the government is saying this. One second. Hmm. I've ruined the flow of this, but that's fine. Oh my god. Sorry, it should tell you a lot about that there's pop-ups on a .gov website now. But this website violates the Hatch Act, and here's why. They talk about Democrats on here. They say Democrats are bad. People hate Democrats, etc., etc., etc. And that is a violation of the Hatch Act. Oh my god. Well, unfortunately, I've pooched this whole thing. And now I cannot find the exact area in which I was seeing that. Great. Well, let's instead talk about, will there be another government shutdown? This is from WCNC in Charlotte. Will there be another government shutdown? Oh, who's the author? By Chris McCoy. Will there be another government shutdown? Congress has less than 1 month to pass a new budget. This was done right before the eve of the insurrection. There is less than 1 month before the government is in danger of shutting down again, putting a hard deadline before Congress just a few months after the prolonged battle over the budget caused the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Let's just do some reality here. Every shutdown has been the responsibility of the Republican Party. They have behaved irrationally. They have made demands of our leaders that are frankly ludicrous. They either want the rules broken to harm somebody or the rules broken to protect people who are harming folks. Basically, evil as a party. Don't worry, Democrats also, by and large, evil. Not as evil as Republicans in any one instance. Any Democrat is better than any Republican, literally any. But that's not really a high watermark or a high bar. The just having less evil politicians is not enough. The only reasonable way to continue as a country is to have pretty much all economic populists in office. So replace everybody, in other words, Democrats and Republicans. But you have to be correct about the reason they're being replaced. No more of this. You make up a lie. I'm talking to Republicans now. You make up a lie about people you don't like, and you just go with the lie because you don't like the person. If you're going to team up with us, you got to knock that stuff off. You have to have real reasons. We'll help you. There's plenty of real reasons to get rid of Democrats. You just got to be honest about it. That's the only place we have friction when it comes to getting rid of those bums. The new deadline to pass a budget is January 30th, meaning both chambers of Congress will have to pass a budget bill in order to keep funding the government. If they don't, the U.S. could end up in the same position as it was throughout October, leaving millions of Americans without pay. So what did you just learn there? You can put pressure on your Congress, your House of Representatives member and your senator, your congressman and your senator. Because if either of them, if you are able to stop the budget in either the House or the Senate, it's successful. This is the same budget that they're going to use to continue attacking Venezuela. That is your goal today, tomorrow, every day until the 30th. Your goal is to stop the illegal invasion of Venezuela and the eroding of world peace. That's literally what's on the line here. China is using this to say, okay, well, hell, if Russia is allowed to invade who they please and the U.S. is allowed to invade who they please, we're not going to play this game with Taiwan anymore. We're going to invade who we please. And that's what Trump wants. He wants this to be like the bad old days. Not because it's going to make life better for you, but because it serves his interests, whatever evil, petty, dying man's interests those are. With the bitter political fighting in Washington, D.C., it's definitely possible that another shutdown will occur. But leadership on both sides of the aisle say they don't want a repeat of October anytime soon. Oh, no. I don't want to see the government shut down, said Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, a leading Democrat figure. I've had enough of them. So now we know we don't need Dick Durbin. The idea that Democrats aren't champing at the bit to shut the government down. This was written on January 5th. In other words, we'd already invaded Venezuela. And yet Dick Durbin doesn't want to see another government shutdown. He didn't connect those dots. I did. Am I in government? No, I'm some fuck. You want to keep funding the government that's going into an illegal war. Is that what you want to do? We got into the position that we are in because of people like Dick Durbin. We do not need, I don't know if it's worse to call him a coward or a moron. I'm assuming he's both, but I'm trying to be polite. So I'll just say he's dumb. I don't want to say that he's got no balls. I assume he has no balls, but I don't want to say that. I do think I'm going to go with the kinder thing and say if he's too dumb to realize that this is one of the only ways that sane people have to stop a war that is going to reignite a new Cold War, which will in fact just be a hot war between the three powers of the world, the three superpowers, quote unquote, that they fight through proxy countries. If you want to avoid that, this is just about the only opportunity we have. Illinois, get rid of Dick Durbin. It will do more for you to generate headlines by having him say, I'm out of politics now because I got such a wave of emails and letters of people telling me to leave. Don't wait for the next appropriate moment. Just leave because you're of no use to us. It'll do more for you to get rid of him. People will respect you more. People will respect the person you put in his place more. But right now, as of this sentence, what I think of Illinois is Dick Durbin. If he stays in power, I think, okay, well, if you're from Illinois, you have no idea how the world works. It's hard for me to take your opinion on anything seriously. If you got advice for what I should do with my car or where I should buy shoes, I'm going to take it less seriously because you allow yourself to be represented by Dick Durbin, a little prick that thinks that it's not a good time to shut the government down. Hard for me to respect people that are represented by somebody like that. But if you're watching this, I assume that you didn't really like Dick Durbin and that he was forced upon you by the Democratic leadership. Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina said he has spoken to the White House and after he washed the cum out of his mouth, confirmed that the GOP is on the same page. No doubt the administration wants to avoid a shutdown, and they're clearly sending the message that we need to get regular order appropriations moving, Tillis told Politico. Good. They want that to happen, so we should make sure it doesn't happen because they went to war without our permission. The people need to take back the government. Representative Kevin Kiley told The Hill earlier this month that Congress is never especially good at, getting things done on time. Getting these things done on time. I was talking to a sweet old lady recently, and she put forward an idea that I'd like to share with you because I think it was a really good idea. What we should collectively do, Republicans and Democrats alike, is replace every last one of the bums in office. Literally everyone. From the top to the bottom. I would like us to see an election where something like 90% of the incumbents are just gone. Really easy to do through the primary process. That's essentially how we do this. We should help each other. As in, hey, progressives, you should help Republicans. You should put in work on their campaigns. If they are doing a primary campaign for a non-bigot, economic populist. If you're a Republican hearing me say that, don't take offense to the fact that I had to clarify a non-bigot. It's a serious problem. I'm not taking this moment to harp on you. I'm just saying we have to follow our morals as well. But look at what I'm suggesting. to a group of progressives. I am suggesting we volunteer to help you campaign. That's how serious I am about this. An economic populist is not just somebody that is not at all somebody who should be telling you lies that relate to money and how you don't have enough of it. That's just another con artist. An economic populist is somebody who has a plan to tax the rich to pay for things you need. It's that simple. Again, if they are an economic populist, then they are planning to tax the rich to pay for services you use. For example, you could raise the cap on income that goes towards Social Security. Right now, 100% of your dollars that you earn are taxed for Social Security, meaning a portion of every dollar you make gets taxed for Social Security. But if you're making more than $400,000 a year, which you're not because you're listening to this, instead of, I don't know, having the information beamed into your brain via satellite. If you are making more than $400,000 a year, then every dollar after the $400,000 mark is not taxed for Social Security. That means when a billionaire makes $1 billion, that is $1 billion minus 400,000 that is not taxed for Social Security. To put it very simply, an economic populist would say, remove the cap on taxable income for Social Security, which just means the rich don't get out of paying for Social Security. They should actually be paying more for it than you are. It's that simple. Instead, you who are not rich, 100% of your income gets taxed. And a rich person has a negligible amount of income taxed. A tiny, tiny percentage of their money is subject to taxes because every time Republicans vote to cut taxes, it's very important that they not be shown whose taxes get cut. It's never the voters. It's always the people who buy the votes that get their taxes cut. The rich. And at the top of the show, if you missed it, I was very clear about this, but I'll repeat it. It is not just Republicans that get this scam done to them. It is all of us. The issue here is not Republican versus Democrat. It's human being versus oligarch. Who should, if there is somebody right now who has more than $1 billion, in a just world, they would spend the rest of their lives in prison for what they did to get that money. But there's not time for justice. That's the sad reality we're in. And I don't mean to say that to discourage you from having a desire for justice, but rather to set expectations, and so that you don't accuse me of being a hypocrite in 2 years when I say that even though Jeff Bezos deserves to starve to death in a cold cell, we instead just take half his wealth, confiscate it, allow him to divide up the remaining assets he has, and put him under house arrest. It will seem like injustice, and it is an injustice. But as I said, we do not have time for justice anymore. We must simply do what is necessary to survive. Let's have a look at some comments here. GOB. Democrats and the left use oligarchs to blame all of the suffering that their terrible policies cause. THEIR. Terrible policies cause. But pricing went up 60% under Joe Biden, and 20% inflation had nothing to do with oligarchs. What are you talking about? Had everything to do with oligarchs. First of all, those are not accurate numbers, but whatever. Let's take them as written. Those are exaggerations and I'm not even sure what you mean by pricing went up 60%, but let's talk specifically inflation, because that I don't know where you're getting the number, but let's talk about the fact that inflation happened at a higher rate. That is a direct result of the invasion of Ukraine and the oligarchs' reaction to it. And by the way, Democrats and the left, it should be you guys too. This is the source of our problems. It shouldn't be a question of, do we blame the same people? Because now, let me just say this while I answer the rest of your question. Please keep something in your head, GOB. It shouldn't be, do we blame the same people? Because we now know who did this, and I will explain it in a moment. What the question should be is, which one of us has the better answer for dealing with these punks? Now, I have admittedly progressive style answers. I think we should deal with it in terms of taxing. I think we have to forgive the crimes that they did before, because there is not time to deal with them in a court of law. But maybe, as a conservative, you feel that the answer would be to just straight up arrest these motherfuckers, confiscate all their assets, and divide them up amongst ourselves. That might be a more conservative way to handle it. But the question of who caused, for example, inflation, no, we have the numbers on that. We know exactly what happened, and we knew 3 months after it happened, because that's when the quarterly reports from food manufacturers came out. When Ukraine got invaded, because they are the grain source for a lot of the world, food prices were jacked up because there was an assumption that we would have a shortage. In fact, we didn't have a shortage. The shortage never came to pass. But even though that never happened, food prices were still kept high because we did not yet have the information. We, the public, did not yet have the information that, in fact, there was no shortage. That didn't come to pass. We had enough reserves, and we shared them equitably amongst allies, that we managed to spare ourselves from an actual shortage. But we were still getting charged as though there was a shortage on. That's a scam that the oligarchs ran on the American people. Same thing happened with oil. We were assuming that there would be an oil shortage, particularly because the U.S. relies on foreign oil to supply its own cars. We have domestic oil. We have something called a strategic oil reserve that we tap into. Joe Biden used the strategic oil reserve. I believe he released like 100,000 barrels. I don't even remember what it was, but Joe Biden successfully navigated that in such a way that the price per barrel actually went down during the Russian shortage. It went down. Yet, we were still charged by the oligarchs who run the gas stations, the Exxon Mobils of the world. We were charged by those people as though there was a shortage. So you're saying pricing went up under Joe Biden. Joe Biden was not the oligarch. Although I want to point out, you are right about one thing. He could have done something, and he chose not to. That's true. But that's also true of Trump. Joe Biden's not our friend. Donald Trump is not your friend. Neither of these motherfuckers have our interests in mind. All of them are happy to watch you die. They're happy for you to starve to death, for your families to go get killed in a war over nothing. They're happy for you to be terrified of going to the doctor in case they do find something, because you can't do anything about it. Your insurance has a limit to how much it will cover. And to even find out, you got a deductible to pay. And you're doing all this suffering just south of a country that has free universal health care. There's a nation of our betters right above us. And all we have to do to get on their level, all we have to do to raise ourselves up is acknowledge that we are not there now. Stop defending Donald Trump. And look, GOB, I don't even want you to start liking Biden. That's not what when I see you talking like this, I get half excited and half frustrated. And I hope you're still here. Please stick around because I want to talk to you. I get half excited and I get half frustrated. I get excited because I see you hating Joe Biden. And I think, good. I can work with that. I can work with you hating Joe Biden and wanting to blame him for things. Good. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck the Democratic Party. I want you to hate that motherfucker. But you have got to stop with this made up stuff. Let's use a more obvious example. I'm glad that QAnon hates kitty diddlers. We can work with that because I also hate kitty diddlers. But the conspiracy crap that they did about it, the way they went about hating kitty diddlers, was to tell each other lies, was to make up campfire stories about what was going on and then say, and I know because I heard it from somebody who's on the inside. You have to say true things about these people because we can't just accept vibes-based justice in this country. Well, I kind of feel like this guy might have done something, so let's punish him like they did something. We're not going to actually fix anything if you're just lying to each other. But I'll tell you what, I will give you the cheat codes. I will give you the answers to the test. I can tell you exactly how Biden fucked up. The answers aren't clean. They're not complicated. Excuse me, they're not clean. They are complicated sometimes. And you've got to be willing to deal with reality. And consider how difficult it would be for you to get up here and tell me a list of things that Trump is actually doing wrong. And then appreciate that I'm doing that for you for the other side. And you might want to question, why am I willing to do that? Because Joe Biden is not on my side. And he's not on your side either. And Donald Trump is also not on either of our sides. We have not had a leader in the White House who gave a shit about us in my lifetime. We can track who they do care about because those people get money while you die slow in America. Saucy Seawitch says, I feel like that was more projection from QAnon. Maybe. Look, we were actually, this is like one of the hardest things for me to deal with. They were not wrong at the core of what they were saying. If you were to ask somebody to summarize what the QAnon beliefs are, it comes down to a core of elites that run our government have a secret pedophilia ring. They were right. That hurts for me to say, but they were right. We have to reckon with that, but so do they. So we have to reckon with the fact that, for example, QAnon broadly was talking about something that ended up being correct, and they did all sorts of evil. They did terrorism. There was that guy that held up, what was it, Cosmos Pizza at gunpoint trying to get into a non-existent basement. But you know what else? There was people on the far right who had conspiracy theories about 9/11. saying that the government was lying to us and actually it was an inside job and blah, 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 blah. The thing of it was, though, the government was lying to us about 9/11. The government was lying during the worst, the most despicable possible time in U.S. history to lie to its people. They were correct. Again, the specifics they got wrong. It wasn't an inside job. They just lied about who did it, and they used that as an excuse to invade another country. But we can't just sit here and say, well, they were half wrong, so we don't listen to them at all. That's twice now in my lifetime that far-right conspiracy theories have been the dressing for real-life crimes of the U.S. government. We have to deal with that. That doesn't mean we start believing the crazy they say. But we can't just leave it as is. We can't just say, oh, that's an interesting phenomenon and move on. We are divided. And I wonder how much our evil government would have gotten away with if the people had been united, if the people who didn't trust Bush correctly in 2001 had been tempered by the people who understand that TV-style conspiracies aren't real. If these QAnoners had been tempered with people who understand perhaps how prosecution actually works, maybe somebody who had paid attention to Alexander Acosta and Jeffrey Epstein's sweetheart deal. That's a reality we're going to have to deal with, gang. We don't have to like each other. Republicans, I'm not asking you to like me. You would be amongst the only people on earth who do. You would be part of the elite core of my audience that watches me and actually likes me. I'm not asking for that. But I'm willing to work with you. And you got to be willing to work with me or a similar type. I don't see anybody else offering olive branches, but I do think other people are going to figure this out soon. It's us, you and me, you and these folks that you're in the chat with right now. It's us versus the oligarchs. Look, Shia LaBeouf is best left to the woods where he can hunt freely and not I don't remember how the song goes. GOB says, I'm a lifelong liberal. I don't even like the GOP. I just think the current Democratic left is unrecognizable and divorced from reality. Okay, so you and I are actually farther apart politically than I am with MAGA. Because the core belief that I'm operating under is just the conclusion arrived at by earnestly viewing American politics for the last 40 years. Neoliberalism is killing us. That is the belief that Reagan popularized, that basically you should have unregulated capitalism as opposed to well-regulated capitalism to decide what's right and wrong in a country. And when you have that, it allows, for example, oligarchs to buy TV stations to tell you what your opinion is, buy elections, by writing a check for $20 million to a candidate. Boom. Now they're going to be in office because they can inundate you with political advertising. They decide who's going to be in office to write the rules that allow them to make money, to write the tax code, which means that you will pay for everything and they will pay for nothing. And they can gamble with your money. They can go play the stock market. And if it fails bad enough because they've got a big enough business, you will pay to bail them out for their bad bets rather than letting them suffer. In other words, socialism for them, but not for you. And they will have you up there foaming at the mouth defending capitalism But here's the reality. I'm sorry. I'm saying that like you're doing it. I don't mean to do that. I mean, that's what their goal is. Their goal is to have you up there defending capitalism rabidly. But here's the reality. Soviet Russia collapsed because a bunch of people said communism is the answer for everything without understanding what communism was. And so it became corrupt. And people just did the normal corrupt things people do when they're in power, and they called it communism. We're going through the same thing with capitalism right now. We don't live in a capitalist society. We live in basically a class-based society, a caste system. And you don't even need to spend the money if you're rich. You just need to demonstrate that you are rich and you are given a rich person's lifestyle. In other words, the assets that you are allowed to hold accrue interest at a rate that exceeds what you're going to spend on a daily basis. You're allowed to get different loans, so you're given chances to improve your lot more often. But crucially, when you take a business risk, like, for example, huge bets on the stock market, where you are packaging and repackaging mortgages and trading them amongst your rich friends, when that happens and you fail, you get bailed out. You get bailed out by regular people, by the GOBs and the your old pal Jakes and the Lord Alcatrazes and the Pinkerbells and the Natchkits of the world. That's who does the bailing out. But if it succeeds, if those bets you make on the stock market succeed, you keep all the profit. You also don't get taxed on that profit. And so on and so on and so on. That's what happens in a country that claims that capitalism is the answer for everything, but does not actually understand what capitalism is. In reality, the way you run a country is to have a mix of all kinds of policies. We don't need capitalism running the police force, for example. We used to have that. It was called the Pinkertons. And if you wanted a crime investigated, you had to hire the Pinkertons in America to go investigate the crime. If you could not afford the Pinkertons, it did not get investigated. We used to have that with fire departments in America, capitalist fire departments. If you had fire insurance, your fire got put out. If you didn't, your house burned down. But wait, you might be saying, didn't that cause other buildings to burn? Yes. It's not an efficient system. There are some things which simply should not be capitalist. There are other things which should be, but not everything. An obvious one that all other countries have figured out is the healthcare system. You shouldn't have to, whether or not you get medical treatment in a civilized country shouldn't depend on whether or not you've got a hunk of money in your pocket. If you're poor, if you're already poor and then you get sick, how are you going to start making more money? Do you want to make a productive citizen or not? Heal them. Most other countries have figured this out. The only reason we don't have it in America right now is the oligarchy, who keeps us inundated with propaganda that works to their benefit. More things that should not be capitalist: the military, prisons. You shouldn't, whether or not somebody gets imprisoned should not be a matter of how much money somebody's going to make for it. So on and so forth. Being a lifelong liberal, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm asking us all to deal with the harsh truths of the world, and this is the truth as I see it. Trump is here because of the folks you support. Trump is here again because of Biden last time. Trump got into office the first time because of Obama. All of these people, all of the leaders that have been in the White House for our whole life have the same thing in common, or at least my whole life, have the same thing in common, which is they serve the rich and despise you. Here's something you can do to see if I'm right or wrong. If let me say, first of all, if you listen to all this, I respect you. It's not easy to listen to somebody who you disagree with, but it's healthy. And even if you don't end up agreeing with me, you'll at least know earnestly what it is I believe. And that's something. But you can check your own guys. And here's how you do it. Listen for phrases that imply something but don't actually mean something. Listen for phrases that imply something but don't mean something. So, for example, if somebody says that everybody in America should have access to health care, does that sound like universal health care to you? I think if they're asked about universal health care and they say, I think everyone in America ought to have access to health care, absolutely. Well, it sounds like they were saying that they agree that we should have universal health care, but that's not what they're saying. I have access to the Porsche dealership. The problem is I don't have the money to buy a Porsche. Now you might say, well, but I agree with the policy that they're going to say. I agree that we don't need, we shouldn't have universal health care. I think yada, yada, yada. That's not my point. My point is they were lying just then. When they meant to, when they were trying to imply that they were for universal health care, and they said a tricky phrase to make it seem like that's what they wanted. I'm saying this specifically because this is a liberal thing they do all the time. And I know I'm not just dunking on liberals. I'm trying to help here though, with at least understanding who these folks are. When they say that they are trying to imply that we should have universal health care or this, that, and the other thing. But in reality, their actual words mean something different. They are being dishonest. They are trying to trick us for a vote. That's a measure of their character. You know, we can't actually predict what's going to happen when we put policies in place. We only have assumptions that are generally educated guesses. But you can tell if someone's a liar. You can tell if somebody has the character to lead. And if they're trying to trick their way into office, then you know they don't have the character. Pay attention to who does that. Who talks like that? Who says something that sounds like something you might agree with or somebody else might agree with, but literally means something different? Access to health care as opposed to universal health care. That is a lie from a liar. That is somebody who's not worthy of your support. And that is the average person we've been led by this whole time. Going way down. Chris King says healthcare for all, wholeheartedly agreed. Saucy Seawitch, I will forever be thankful for the Canadian healthcare system, hiccups and all. I do not have to mortgage my house if me or one of my children has an accident. Yeah, that's it exactly. That is it exactly. Trump has a 4.2% GDP, 5% increase in wages, 2.5% increase in wages. You are getting your information from wrong sources. I'll just be blunt. 2.5% pre-COVID level inflation, but we had COVID, and we're now 6 years out. 20 trillion in new USA investment, $2 gas housing. What? $2 gas? Not in my area. Where are you getting this? Housing prices down. No new wars. GOB. I think you know you're being dishonest. And that's very sad to me because I want to talk to you like the real you. I don't want to. I don't want to talk to somebody who's playing a game. And I don't know why you're even listening to this if you're just trying to play a game. I'm being serious. When you were pulling up this information, were you looking to just come up with a list of things that sound good, or did you take time to understand any of it? Let's just go with the most obvious. No new wars. What just happened? What did we just do? What's the main thing everyone on earth is talking about right now? Not only did we illegally invade Venezuela and kidnap its leader and say we're going to occupy the country, but we are now threatening Greenland. Stephen Miller just said that the USA will take over Greenland. He did this on a national interview. And he was refusing to rule out violence to do so. No new wars? Did you when you typed that earnestly believe that? Yes. Right there. Let's stick with the no new wars thing. Because we don't even have to look anything up. You must know that as you were typing that, you must have known that that was untrue. Saucy Seawitch, I love you, but if I'm talking to somebody, just let me talk to them. Just let me talk to them. I don't want them to stop talking to me to talk to you. I'm a little jelly. The no new wars thing, GOB. That's not naming something. Tell me what I said specifically. No, I think it was pretty clear from the jump. That was the main thing I have a problem with. Because you said it, and you must have known as you were typing it that it was not true. Look, this is what you typed. Oh, this is the wrong thing. This is what you typed. Son of a gun. Where is it? It's okay, Saucy. Let me go back up to the no new wars comment because that's the one I want to talk about. There we go. GOB, I want to talk about this, not because I'm trying to trick you, not because I want to get into an argument over a needling little point here or there, because this is not a game. I want to know what your sincere beliefs are. And are you telling me that when you typed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters on your keyboard, no space, new space, wars, that you thought that was a true thing that you were saying? I don't think you thought that was true. I think you just thought that was something you ought to say, and I don't know why you thought you ought to say it. But I want to talk about that because you said it. And there's no point in going over any other facts if you're not going to approach them honestly. And I want you to because I want to work with you. If you truly were a lifelong liberal and then you voted for Trump, that tells me you are interested in change, that you think there is something fundamentally wrong with America. And I agree. Damn it, I agree. There is something fundamentally wrong with America. And I want to work with people who are willing to do something as crazy as voting for Trump. And before that, what was Obama's pitch? Change. These people are tapping into an actual feeling we're having, an actual realization we're having, but they are corrupting it. So don't lie to me. You're on my side. I am on your side. They are not on either of our side. Don't lie to me. Why did you type that? No new wars. Did you honestly believe that? There are two things that have destroyed the middle class, and they are actually the oligarchy. We're not reading the rest of that. The no new wars comment. Did you believe that when you typed that? It's okay if the answer is no. You can even say no. I don't know why I said that. Obviously, we just attacked Venezuela, obviously. But explore that. Explore that for a moment. Show me the courage. I know you've got it. You're here in an unfair conversation already. You're communicating via text on a 30-second delay, and I have the advantage of a microphone. You've shown that you have courage. I respect that. Keep it going, though. Tell me why you said no new wars as one of Trump's accomplishments, as we just invaded Venezuela on his say-so alone. Because that's a disassociation from reality that we have got to deal with. Here's the thing, Green New Deal. Yes, it's true conservatives lie all the time, but we should be realistic here. The Democratic Party is built on lies. The Democratic Party is almost entirely corrupt. It is the left lies. Not the left, but Democrats lie all the time as well. Was removing Osama bin Laden a war? No, it was surgical extraction. Trump is the first president in 40 years not to start a war. Do you not think we are at war with Venezuela? Do you think that they are going to allow us to steal their natural resources without a fight? It will be an asymmetrical war. I doubt very much we're going to have a line of tanks rolling at us, but no, of course, we are at war with Venezuela. We just chased their ships. We just did violence to accomplish things. GOB. Actually, Saucy. Can you right click on GOB's account and see if it was made in the last year for me? Please do that if you're a mod. Just tell me if you're a mod if the account was made within the last year. I'm willing to look like a fool in the interest of talking to somebody sincere. But I think when you say Trump is the first president in 40 years to not start a war, within the week of him kidnapping another country's president, I think you know that you're being dishonest in this conversation. And I think you are hoping at best to get a technically correct. Like technically Congress hasn't declared war because he hasn't given them that chance. 2023, 2 subs, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's at least not a Russian bot made within the last year. GOB. I'd like you to take 5. I'm inviting you to come back anytime you want, and I'll talk to you specifically to continue this conversation. But don't come back unless you're willing to be honest. You don't have to be right. You really don't. You don't have to be correct on a given issue. You don't have to agree with me. Certainly not. But you got to be honest because you're not helping yourself. You're not going to get anywhere if you're playing a game with this. The world is turning away from America because we have become an irrational nation. And history, whether you realize it or not, is watching us right now. and we are, so far, leaving them wanting. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. And I would definitely recommend you guys check out this space live now on YouTube. My name's Jake.